Alright guys, good morning. I don't really have a specific topic for this video, to be honest. I feel like, oh, there's a lot of glass there. Hello. Let me go wide. I think this video is just going to be me just talking, to be honest. Like even when I'm at work, whenever, just to pass some time by, obviously, like for most people, you talk about some topics with your buddies of whatever it is you're doing or whatever it is you like. And some people just don't know about certain things, right? You just kind of inform them. Like for me, because they always talk about, since I work at a Ford, and they always talk about getting a automatic or like manual Mustang, for example. And they're like, who wants an automatic Mustang? I was like, probably for people who don't really want to blow up their manual transmission. And I get, like, some people say like, oh, that manual trans, like if you know how to drive correctly, that the manual trans will last longer than the automatic, which fair enough, yes. And that's true for most manual transmissions. There's only one flaw here, one. There's something called an MT82, if you've ever heard of that. Mustangs use MT82s, which are quite notorious for being one of the weakest manual transmissions to ever exist, especially for a car of that caliber, right? It is a performance vehicle. And to put that type of transmission, especially a manual one, right? The car that is supposed to be the fun car. It's more fun. It's more, you're more involved in the car. You have more control. The problem with that transmission is you can't really have fun, right? Like you can, but to a certain point. There's a limit that transmission just can't do it. And I'm talking about just the regular Mustangs. Whether you have the 4-cylinder or whether you have the regular base GT. Not the Dark Horse, just the GT. Right? Or even from older ones, just the GT, nothing else. If you have that, it's still a problem because of the fact that it uses an MT82. It's not strong enough. It doesn't like being, especially if you're trying to, do some spirited driving. It can't. It just doesn't like being high RPMs. It doesn't like doing it. That's for some reason the automatics of those Fords can withstand way more abuse than what the manual one can do. Now, I'm not saying that that's all Mustangs. If you look at it more, there are some Mustangs, even if you don't get a Shelby, there is one that I know of that uses that from the modern day, from the Coyote Mustang specifically. The older ones, they use T56s and whatnot. Cool. And they're all the New Edge and pre-Coyote years. For the sake of the trim is what they did it on, right? If you get a Mach 1, that one has a Tremec 6-speed, which that's probably, if you want to get a manual Mustang, just buy the Mach 1. It's a better option, right? I mean, I've seen at least some used ones. I see some used ones going for around $40,000, which, to a lot of people, it's just not worth it for a Mustang. But to me, I'm like, at that point, if you're looking into what that car has, that's relatively low, right? Relatively low for the equipment that it's put into, because it's everything. It has everything that a Shelby 350 has, specifically the 350. It has everything that car has except one thing, the engine. It does not have a Voodoo. It has a Coyote still. like because it has I think it's a TR3160, which that's the Tremec code that they use. It has all sorts of, like it's built for track. It has all sorts of coolers. I don't think it uses I think some of them may use MagneRide, but in terms of suspension, it was made stiffer than the Shelby's because that's just the way the Mach 1 is. The Mach 1's kind of the mid-ground. It's kind of the in-between of a GT with the 350. It gets the tire size, it gets everything that the 350 has, except for the engine is the primary thing. You go from a 5.2 flat plane to just sticking to literally just a regular Coyote engine, which to some people they might be disappointed in that. To some people they might like that. I personally like that, right? Not to say that I don't like the Voodoo engine. I do. It sounds great. It's cool, right? But I like the Coyotes better, just based off of their own strength. And just because, you know, I just think it's from, if you're buying performance cars, obviously most people could be like, you know, you don't really want to care about reliability. You kind of do, right? You still want to be able to track this thing, go home and track it again. And I think the Coyotes could probably do that better than the Voodoos can. Now, you're not going to get any of that glorious sound that the 5.2s can do. That just won't happen. But as just a car, that thing is nice, right? Like I said, even the cooling packages, which for me is very important because I live in Arizona, and especially if you're tracking, that's important too. So I'm like, if that's the only one, cool. But you can say you got to look more into the Mustangs. Oh, damn, excuse me. Obviously for Chevy or for Dodge, whatever car you use, if you get a manual trans, they almost always use Tremec. That's never really changed, which is nice, right? They're pretty much fairly reliable. Dodge, obviously, I think makes better automatic transmissions with the ZF8s. Those 8 speeds are quite stout. Not to say that, you know, they don't have their problems. Every transmission does. The big one, even for GM, Ford, all of them have some, especially newer transmission. They're fairly stout. I think even the 10 speeds. The 10 speeds have their own thing. I know GM just had a big old recall like a couple days ago, which kind of sucks. About just specifically the 10 speeds, something like that kind of sucks. It has a recall for locking up rear tires while you're driving. I'm like, that is terrifying. So that's not good. So I'm like, if you were to try to get the automatics from GM, just the one that seemed to have the least problems, not to say that they never did, were the 6 speeds. Right, the 6L80s, 6L90s, stout transmissions. There wasn't too much going on. Same thing for Ford. Ford made a 6R80, it's a very strong transmission. It's kind of your best all-arounder because it can do it can do a lot of things in terms of as a racer. Like, no, it won't shift nowhere near as quick as all these dual clutch transmissions and whatnot. Yeah, I get that, right? It just won't. And yeah, there's certain things that you can do to fix some of them, right? Like in terms of upgrading the factory specs. Shift kits is a big one. Providing a aftermarket shift kit and getting it tuned as such would help very much. And just getting a tune as a whole, a transmission tune, is a really, really big one for those things. For the non-American cars, my personal favorite, if it comes to Germany, I like the AMG GTs. one's from 2015 to 2022, so that span with the 4 liters, and it's specifically the one that uses a torque tube, right? Well, and there's only a few of them, and I like those cars. They're nice. Obviously, one thing with it having a torque tube, it's, you know, very much my liking, because, you know, obviously, as you're seeing in this video, I am driving my C5, and I just like those style of cars because of, not because of the things that it come with, but just the balance that they provide, right? Provide a very good balance. For it's more the fact that Mercedes is just, to me, just a combination of two of my favorite cars combined into one. And it's like for let me see, like the combo, if you look at it hard enough, right, from a certain angle, to me, from a powertrain perspective, you know, drivetrain, all that good stuff, it's very Corvette-like. Engine in the front, transmission in the back, torque tube to kind of to merge them together, right? Nice. Obviously, suspension-wise, it's going to be different from them to us. They use much more expensive suspension and mounts. A lot of it is magnetic. For the other one, from my looks, like aerodynamically, to me, it looks like a Viper. Right, from the styling of it, it has a very Viper-like body, which I just like, right? That's one of my other favorite cars that, you know, we've ever made here in the States, is the Vipers, especially the 5th gens. 5th gens are probably some of my favorite cars. I like 3rd gens too. Like 3rd, 4th, and 5th are probably my favorite generations of the Viper. But very stout. And then obviously engine, they have their own with their mighty 4 liter V8s, which vary from trim to trim on how much power you have and all that good stuff. Dude, for me, I'd be fine with just the base model, to be honest with you. That base model would be just fine for me. I'd say that's not a cheap car for one, but just from, you know, in the head, that's one of the cars I would like. It's very cool, very nice. And obviously interior, splendid. It is a Mercedes with AMGs, and it's great. I'm sure some Mercedes guys will probably say, like, you know, they're not reliable. Yeah, okay, I get that. I'm just talking about just having it, okay? If I had that type of money and I didn't care, I'd buy it. If it was some Japanese-made brands, obviously I like Evos. From the 4-cylinder worlds, I do really, really like Lexus. I just do. Especially like an RCF or ISF would be fire. RCF is cool because I do like retractable wings. And LC500, just because I like the way that car looks. That car is really nice. And sound. Sound is a big one. Yeah, those cars sound phenomenal. And those cars just sound phenomenal. Okay, they closed it off. That's great, guys. Let's go ahead and open the door for the workers, guys. You know, that'd be great. Oh yeah, rubber air dam. There it is. Yeah, that's the one thing I know it's meant to rub on things. I just don't like that noise. You guys probably didn't hear it, but any person who's ever driven some of these cars, you will hear that air dam scrape on everything. It's phenomenal. Oh dang, my stabilizer is not stabling. crazy work. Okay. But yeah, I think there's a lot of cars I'd like to have or just even drive, but owning, yeah, I think from Lexus, that Lexus would probably be my daily, to be honest with you. Give me an ISF, GSF, anything with those 5 liters, I love them all equally as well. Oh, dang. I love them equally. Just the way I am. And I like all brands. Like, I think some brands, I just get interested in certain brands too with what they make, right? Like some brands, they make like some things that you'd never think they would be doing. For example, whether they're reliable or not, Kia, right? They make the Kia Stinger. Thing's got an 8-speed with a 3.3 liter turbo, a twin turbo engine. Then you got things like the old Hyundai Genesis with a 3.8, those naturally aspirated V6s. Those made a significant amount of power for what they were. Right now, I think that was pushing the limits of an NA V6, but nonetheless, that thing was very stout. And headlights go down. Beautiful. But yeah, there's a lot of things I'd like to join. For, I guess for Germans, it's mostly just Mercedes for me. I just don't really, I'm not super crazy about some of the Audis and BMWs. I know they make some cool stuff, right? I look at their stuff too, but in terms of just which one, you know, piques my interest, it's never really them. Same thing for Japan, but it's mostly a lot of the Lexus V8s. And I know they're not super quick for, you know, if we're comparing them to the cars that they're trying to compete against. Yes, I get they're not that quick. I'm just talking about just the luxuriousness. I like my little luxuries too, okay? That's why I mentioned LC500 RCF. Those are luxurious, not super quick cars in terms of their competitors, but I think relatively quick enough for some. Then you've got the AMG, which is pretty much the same luxurious styling, but can actually compete or even just beat most of the competitors that it's going against. So, but anyway, that was just me just chatting and rambling about my day. So, you guys have a great day. I'm out.